Feel the Sangha. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one. Namo saranto suchedoye halahari sanmyao sanputoshe. Wu shang shen shen wei miao fa, bai qian wan jie nan zao yu. Wo jin jian wan de shou chi, yuan jie ru lai zhen shi yi. The unsurpassed, deep, profound, subtle, wonderful Dharma in 100,000 million eons is difficult to encounter. Now that I've come to receive and hold it within my sight and hearing, I bow to fathom the thus come one's true and actual meaning. Shifu Shangren, Venerable Master, Dharma friends, welcome to our Sutra lecture tonight. This is the 8th of June. Saturday night, we're here in Berkeley, California. We're going to be looking into the Flower Garland Sutra, and we're going to start by reciting the name of the sutra and the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. So you'll find that on the front cover of your text. Namo Da Fang Guang Fo Hua Yin Jing Hua Yin Hai Hui Fo Pu Sa Na Da Fang Guang Fo Hua Yin Jing Hua Yin Hai Hui Fo Pu Sa. Namo Da Fang Guang Fo Hua Yin Jing Hua Yin Hai Hui Fo Pu Sa. Namo Da Fang Guang Fo Hua Yin Jing Hua Yin Hai Hui Fo Pu Sa. Namo Da Fang Guang Fo Hua Yin Jing Hua Yin Hai Hui Fo Pu Sa. Namo Da Fang Guang Fo Jing Hua Yin Hai Hui Fo Pu Sa. Namo Da Fang Guang Fo Hua Yin Jing Hua Yin Hai Hui Fo Pu Sa. Please turn to page 24 and 25 in your text. And there are folks who have contacted me online and said, we listen to your lecture regularly and we'd like to know where the text is. Can we find it? So, is there a place? Do we know? Okay. Okay. Great. Okay. So those of you who are tuning in and would like to follow the text on your computer, go to the Berkeley Monastery website, berkeleymonastery.org. Then go to the class listing, which is Saturday night, Avatamsaka Sutra lecture, and you should find it there. Great. And we are, as you will see, quickly coming to the end of the fourth ground, and we're in the process right now of editing the fifth ground, and that will be up soon in the same place. Great. Appreciate that. Okay, 24 and 25, we're on the next to last paragraph. Second paragraph from the bottom. Okay, we'll start with the Chinese. And can we try our chanting method to see if we get a feel for the verses that's different from the prose. 如来所呵烦恼行，如来所呵烦恼行，一无一例皆除断，除断。智者修行清净也，修行清净也，唯度众生无不作。Sounds good. To the right, let's do it. Let's recite together. Here we go. Ready? Afflicted types of behavior reproved by the Tathagata as non-beneficial, he completely cuts off. What the wise one cultivates, his purified karma, to save living beings, he does them all. Great. Okay, let's look at the Chinese. I think most everybody here knows what we're about, so I don't have to give the context for this part of the text. Let's take a look. Let's go right into it. Ru Lai, see the two characters there? Ru Lai is thus come, or coming, and it means Tathagata. That's the Chinese translation of Tathagata, the one who has come like this. So he, that which warns, reproves, that which does this, shakes finger in the face. That's he, to chastise. The Tathagata, that which chastises. Fan nao heng. Fan nao is affliction. Fan, you see the left-hand side of the character fan. It's if you take a line and cut down through that character. The left side is fire. Fire, like fire when you strike the lighter, fire in the match, fire in the sun. The right side is head. It's probably, you can do the etymology with that. You can say fire in the head, meaning trouble, things that burn, when you always feel kind of like frustrated. That's fire in the head. Now is actually the brain. Picture of, I'm sorry, I take it back. It's the right-hand side appears when you have a different left-hand side. When you have meat, then it's brain, like brain in the head. This one is now, which means trouble. It's hassles, miseries. So you put the two together, fan nao, and it's the word the Chinese gave for affliction, for troubles. The things that bother you, the things that are not at rest. You can't be peaceful with affliction. You have to move to deal with it. You can't just let it be. Who's content to be in the state of the blues? You have to do something about it. So that's affliction. Ru Lai, Tathagata, that which warned about afflicted Heng, behavior. So the things that the Buddha told us about that lead us to misery, comma, okay, hold that idea, because this is a verse in these, it's one idea in 4 lines. 以无义力皆出断. because 无益力, they have no benefit. They don't help us at all. So afflicted behavior that does not help us in the least, 皆除断, entirely got rid of and cut off. 除, to cast out, 断, it's a picture of an axe. The right-hand side of that character is an axe. So it's you cut them off. You prescribe them. You stop those behaviors. The Tathagata, afflicted behavior that the Buddha warned us about as being non-beneficial, he or she cuts off, stops it. That's what the Bodhisattva does. Okay. Next line, third line. 智者修行清净业. Wise person cultivates purified karma, behavior. So the wise person, instead of doing things that the Buddha says don't do, because there's no good in them, he stops. And this wise person goes ahead to cultivate karma that is purified. What would that be? It's behavior that doesn't have big ego behind it. Behavior that is free of bias or agenda. That's purified. It doesn't mean purified meaning not dirty. Dirty, what would be impure karma? Impure karma would be karma connected with greed, anger, and delusion. So things that are upside down, things that are motivated by hate, things that are just basically wrong because they're not supported in the world. Superstition would be one of those things. The Bodhisattva would not cultivate that kind of karma because it's not pure. 为度众生无不作. In order to do, there's our power word, to cross over, to take across, to teach, to save. 众生, multiply born, meaning living beings. 无不作, none not do. Jerry. Why is okay? Go ahead. You're right there.
Right, because I know the feelings, those are harmful. So what is anger is an emotion. Does that have any harm?
Does anger itself have karma? You mean?
Why is that?
Impure. 不清净. Okay. Good question. So Jerry's question was, what about anger? Why is anger considered impure? Well, you answered your question yourself, because it's an emotion, and what's wrong with emotion? Aren't emotions helpful and make life worth living and all? From the Buddha's, I won't quote the Buddha, I'll just say from my own experience, emotion is thought that moves. E movere in Latin. It's motion. Moving from. Okay, what's wrong with things that move? Thoughts that move. Because they're not reliable. Okay, let's look at the skandhas. Right? We talked about them last week. First one is the body. Clear. Second one is where anger lives. The second skandha is the feeling skandha. And what happens when we get angry? I mean, I can tell you because I've experienced it. I know what anger is about. And when I get angry, I can feel it, I can locate it in my body. Usually it starts in the gut. It's here. I can feel it move, and I can almost feel it kind of go flip. And it spreads, and my heartbeat really, anger moves fast. Pretty quickly, my heart starts beating fast. And often I can feel it in the back of my throat, and I can feel my face getting red. And it's a profound physical change that comes with an emotion. So I'll give an example. I saw somebody about to throw a dog into traffic. They'd pick the dog up and they were going to throw it into the moving cars. And it was so obviously wrong. And it was a human act. No other species kills by choice just to see it die. This guy was going to throw a dog into traffic. And I couldn't do anything about it because I was too far away, and the noise of the traffic, I couldn't hear my voice. And the futility of it, and the seeing of the dog was so terrified, and people shouldn't behave like this. People are dogs' friends, right? We get along together. The dog was terrified, and it just pushed a button in me, and I felt all those changes happen, especially because I was frustrated. And part of my mind was saying, this is inappropriate for you to get angry. Furthermore, it's not going to work. It's not going to help anything. Excuse me. It's a loser in every no matter how you look at it. This is not effective, not useful to you or to the situation. So when I felt that rise, what I realized was the anger inside kind of smoked my wisdom. It created a cloud over my choices. Once the anger moved, it was strong. It had a physical. It wasn't just a thought. It was a thought plus. It was a thought plus body. Why? Second skandha. Both emotion, which is kind of moving, and sensation, which is clearly rooted in the flesh and blood. So that's where emotion lives, and anger is a prime one because it moves so fast and it has these changes. So it's both thought and body. Okay, when that rose, I realized it was going to take a while for me to regain my clarity because it generated, it's as if, okay, here's a perfect example. We have a camera here in front of us, all right? Very nice camera. And when it's set up precisely, it renders clearly the image in front of me. If you take a thumbprint and smear it across the lens, spit on the lens and smear it, then you go, oh my God, the image that's being rendered now is going to be distorted. My anger did that to my mind. Right? Minutes before that guy was about to throw the dog into traffic, by the way, he didn't, I was clear, and I had many choices. I could see this or this. That makes sense. This makes sense. What's the right thing to do? You can judge. As soon as the anger moved, I had one choice, which was to go in the direction to stop what was happening. Force. I wanted to overpower the guy and stop it at any cost. Now, that's why anger is impure. From the Buddhist point of view, it obstructs wisdom. It replaces wisdom. Because where does the anger come from? The same place as the wisdom. Only one is used with affliction, and the other is used with clarity. So that's the answer. It's because of what it does to your wisdom. In one sentence. Why is anger considered impure? It's because it clouds your wisdom. You move with anger. It reduces choices. It leads to violence. If that guy had been close to me, if I could have reached him, I would have, intervened. I just saved the dog. And who knows what would have happened then? Fist fight with a monk on the freeway, not so good, But if you'd told me to not do that, I would have said, get out of my way. I'm going to stop that, because it was wrong. And the poor dog, all the reasons, but still, it was going to move me into action, and that's not right. So does that make sense? Do you want to respond to that?
Right. So the anger itself doesn't have direct impact on the karma, but the action after can have an impact.
Okay. The traditional phrase is 起祸造业受果报. What's wrong with karma? Nothing's wrong with bad karma. It's what happens after you create the bad karma that you don't want. Right? The first is 起祸. You act, delusion rises. And the affliction is considered the delusion part. Anger is huo, yi huo, delusion. So once delusion rises, 造业, then you act. And it's not for sure that it's going to be bad karma. Mostly it'll be unwise karma. And what happens after you do the deed? 受果报. So there's a two-link, step, step, step. Once you qi huo, once delusion rises, pretty much you're going to act. Then 受果报. Then the retribution comes. So you can apply that to lust. You see a beautiful form and you're moved into action, and then you think, how could I possibly have done that? And at the time it seemed great. We were drunk and dancing, and you write your story. So greed is the same. You know you don't need that extra right in your item, that extra Prada bag. Because why? You've got a Gucci and a Lanvin and a Hermes, and you have those bags, Ming Pai, head to toe. You got plenty. But you see the new Prada bag and you think, wow, that's right out of Hong Kong. That's probably the only one in Burlingame with that bag. Check your balance. It's only $3,000. So you go for it. That's greed. And if you hadn't seen it, the minute before you saw it, everything was fine. That didn't exist in your mind. You see it, qi huo zao ye shou bo. Then you go home and you discover that's your spending money for a month. You bought the bag and you got 3 just like it in the closet. So that's the idea. Is that? Yeah. So you could say, what's wrong with greed, anger? What's wrong with delusion? Nothing. What's wrong with karma? Nothing. It's the rewards that when it comes down, we go, oh my God, how could I have possibly done that? So what do they say? The bodhisattva is extremely cautious with the causes. But when the rewards come, he's totally okay with it. Living beings are totally careless with the causes. But when the reward comes, we're like, oh no, how could this happen? Poor me, tian na. Heaven is so unfair to me. Because why? We don't pay attention when we plant the seed. So, okay. Yeah, good question. So, let's put, yes. Okay, tell me your name. Anna. Okay, go for it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, good. Okay, and with my answer, you can ask back if I don't satisfy. Okay. Yeah. You get your money's worth with these questions. Make sure. Question was, is repressing those emotions the way to deal with it? And the understanding being, it must not be the way to do it. What do we do? Of course, trying to repress anger can lead to high blood pressure and ulcers, and the anger tends to leak out the side. It's kind of like turning a hose on full and then putting your thumb over the hose, right? The water squirts out the sides. What's the most effective way to do it? The Buddhas, and I could give you probably the rest of the lecture and a week full of methods for transforming anger. That's one of our topics that we talk about a lot. This is not the forum to do that, but I'll just talk in principle. The Buddha's method was recognize it. Recognize as the anger rises and trace it back. See clearly where anger came from. Anger's the second step. What's the first step? Almost always desire or greed. It's the Buddha's formula was tan, chen, chi, greed, anger, stupidity. We're talking about the stupidity part and then the rewards of stupidity. But if you take a step back, you're back with the anger. Where does the anger come from? It's a result. Anger is a result. It doesn't rise independently. Anger is a result usually of frustrated desire, most often. Somebody gets the rewards that you think you ought to get. What was the desire? Fame, being liked, face, pride, all those things. If you think you ought to get it and you don't, anger. So you go, okay, faith, pride. Why did she get the first prize and I, who deserve it more, got honorable mention, second place, third place? So you go, why do I think I need that reward? Well, because I've always fought with my sister, and my sister always got all the attention, and I don't like being ignored. Okay, that's true and that's real. So is it worth getting angry? Probably not. Why? Because I really love my sister, and I'm happy when she gets rewards too. But maybe I can let this one go. No greed for fame, no anger, no regrets. Right? So the Buddha's method is recognize the cause of the anger. When you see it clearly, often it puts the fire out. If you just say, if you really give your anger lots of dignity, oh, my anger is really important to me, I really love my anger, and I love being an angry, powerful person because I can destroy stuff. There's not much hope. You can't do much about that. Don't be afraid of your anger. Anger is a result of a cause. It's step 2. So if you can trace it back. Now, the lawyer in you will go, yeah, but what about righteous anger? Sometimes anger is correct. Sometimes you see injustice and you want to go out and be Robin Hood and, 打抱不平, you want to get out there and save the day and be Superman, superhero. Yeah, there is injustice in the world. And the Buddha would say, take a look at your anger. Where did it get you last time? Check it out. Well, yeah, I remember last time I grabbed that placard and I went out and just demonstrated and I shouted myself hoarse and I got tear gassed and I was on the news and my boss saw my picture in the demonstration. I got fired, and on and on, and nothing changed. In fact, it brought on more repression, because. So you go, maybe instead of getting angry, if I went door to door and talked to all my neighbors and got, used logic to change their thinking and voted the bastards out of office, that was much more effective than, holding the placard. So there's a way to work with it. Righteous anger itself is you choose. These descriptions, Jerry's question, your question, are given from the point of view of meditators. The Buddha is not just saying anger is bad. He's saying, do you want to get to wisdom? If you do, you need samadhi. How do you get to samadhi? Through character. Character, concentration, insight. Once you set foot on the spiritual path, once you say, I'm very interested in doing what the Buddha did, in getting liberated from birth and death, in ending affliction, I'm really interested in that. At that point, this teaching about anger being not a good idea, a poison, that suddenly makes sense, right? So are you out demonstrating with your sign, down with, right? Or you're throwing tear gas canisters back at the Turkish police, or who knows, in America, it could happen any time, At that point, you have to decide, this is more important for me to be righteous in the streets than to be sitting still, ending birth and death. Because the standards of the meditator do not apply to righteous anger. All right? Once you go to righteous anger, you've pretty much said, I don't care what happens to my samadhi. Right? Okay, let's bring it back from the demonstration. What about your kid? Suppose your kid behaves in a way that totally gets you angry because the kid is outrageous. The kid he knows your buttons and he's pushing it on purpose, or she is. She really is out of line, and it's right to be angry. You're the mom, you're the dad. You have to decide. It's really hard to be angry and to be in samadhi at the same time. It's hard. So That's why monastics don't have kids. Right? Honestly. And I mean, when I see students, I don't have disciples, when I see students misbehaving, I can go, that's your karma. I go upstairs and meditate, you know. It's like, good luck, you know. So, once you have kids, like anger is pretty hard to avoid sometimes. But it's not always. There's also joy, you know. There's also pride and all. So, by saying it this way, what I'm saying is, the Buddha was not making existential statements. Anger is a poison, it's a bad thing. He's saying, if you want to enter samadhi, don't fight. 正是生普心，与道相违背，变生四相心，由何得三昧? Fighting is the attitude of victory and defeat. It stands in opposition to the way, to the Tao. Furthermore, it creates the mind that has 4 marks in it. Where is your samadhi going to come from when you're angry? So fighting and anger, I'm equating here. So fighting, 正是生普心. Fighting is the anger of victory and defeat. It stands in opposition to the Tao. Okay, think of our sage, all right? The traditional, let's say, Chinese sage. We don't have any American sages to point to yet. But think of, okay, St. Francis, all right? St. Francis. I don't know if you all resonate with St. Francis. Probably not so much. Okay, how about, let's say, could we borrow one of these guys? These guys don't get enough airtime, right? These are our Taoist friends over here on the organ, right? So we have 5 Taoist sages. Okay, pick a sage, any sage, all right? Pick the third guy in a line there. He's got this beard, he's standing there, you know, and he doesn't look like he's angry all the time, right? What's he like? He's like, okay, that's all right. Yeah, you know, go with the flow, dude. Chill, you know. He's not upset. Because why? He doesn't want to get angry. He's protecting his samadhi from emotion. Because he knows that is hard to get. Samadhi takes lots of time, lots of work, lots of concentration. You have to let a lot of stuff go. In order to get real samadhi, which then leads to wisdom, you have to let a lot of stuff go. Look at Siddhartha, man. What did Siddhartha let go? The world, right? The prince let the world go. He could have had anything, and he had everything, and he let it go. Because why? He said, when the time comes, if I can get real samadhi, I have a pearl, a priceless pearl. Right? Shifu has a great poem. I don't think I can do it. 人是无家宝，人人是不好. Patience is a precious jewel, but nobody knows how to use it. So, answer 2 to your question, what do you do when the emotion arises? The answer is, you don't repress it, you wait it out. You use patience. Patience is this underappreciated virtue. It's exactly given to transform anger. Okay? So, Shifu would often say, we're talking about fanna, affliction in this verse. Shifu would say, if we didn't have 84,000 kinds of troubles, we wouldn't need 84,000 kinds of Buddhadharma. What is the purpose of Buddhadharma? It is for transforming affliction. It's medicine. What's the medicine for anger? Patience. Okay, now, again, remember my formula, which was, these are given for cultivators, these ideas, not for just any old body, right? If you're on the spiritual path, this stuff is important. If you're not, it's just interesting, not important. Okay, what did Shifu say? What did the Buddha say? He said, you have to be able to see your thoughts before any of this work. Why do we meditate? So we can catch the anger rising. If your mind is totally like a Budweiser commercial, you know, like, grab for all the gusto you can get, you know, fill him up again, you know. Like, you're not going to see your anger rising. It's just another thought. It feels good to get angry. Bam! You know, feels good. Bam! Oh, doesn't feel good, you know. So, that's instinctual man, woman, you know. Once you start to cultivate, you bit by bit calm that down. When anger moves, you see it, and you go, nope, not. You have to be quick with anger. You got to catch it as it moves and say, not this time. I've gone with that every time, and I remember what happened last time. She didn't talk to me for a week, right? He saw me at my ugliest. You ever look at your face in the mirror when you're really angry? It's like, not pretty, All this stuff, angles come out. Not pretty. Black, green, red, So you say, I remember, not this time. I'm going to hold it this time. And it's not repression. Repression won't work. It's the thumb over the hose, right? You go, no, I am not angry. There's an angry thought in my mind. Fundamentally, I'm neither angry nor not angry. But that's an angry thought, and it stinks. And I'm going to let it go. And if you can wait and wait and wait, usually you have to wait like 5 times. 3 times won't do it. That 4th one, boom, Wait, I'm going to wait. Patience, got to have patience. Don't get angry. Wait. Gone. So there's no magic. It's just you kind of have to respond fast to anger and be really calm. And I'm not going to do it this time. And you have to get angry a bunch of times before you catch on to that thing, But boy, after you feel angry, not much virtue left. And Shifu would say, well, it'll come back, but you got to start over again. And so you can hear, I've got lots of angry Dharma, non-angry Dharma. One night at Gold Mountain Monastery, translating for Shifu, he said, he gave a poem. He gave an anti-anger poem. It was great. He said, well, I can't, I don't want to make it up. There was a story why he said it then. It was like somebody, I think what it was, and I don't have any other colleague here to ask, so I think it was, Shifu said that one of his karmic debtors came. Somebody to whom Shifu owed a life. He had killed somebody in the past. And this person was coming for him. And Shifu said, he told us this, and of course we couldn't see it, but he said, anger, I was translating, and he looked over, he said, Guojan, he said, anger is really not a good thing. Do you believe me? I'm going, yes, Shifu. I believe you, Shifu. What are you talking about, Shifu? Anger is not good, Guojan. He said, 从前无明火，发出比天高，烧尽功德林，我今受果报，我今受苦报. He said, in the past, my fire of anger, fire of ignorance, 无明火, in the past, the fire of my ignorance blazed up higher than heaven. It burned completely my forest of merit and virtue, and now all I have left is the bitter rewards, the bitter retribution. 从前无明火，发出比天高，烧尽功德林，我今受苦报. Right? In the past, there's a phrase in there, 无明火. That's interesting. The fire of ignorance. And so, Anna, right? With your question, one dharma to look into would be the fire of ignorance. That's very interesting. It's like, why did you get angry? A lot of the time the answer is, I just don't even know. But I just felt angry a lot. So where does the fire of ignorance, he said, 从前无明火. Ignorance is that covering in our minds, so like we don't really know. And it's a mix of desire and ego and self, jealousy, fear, all those emotional states based on unclarity contribute to anger. So, 从前无明火，发出比天高 came out, in the past, my fire of ignorance blazed up higher than the heavens. 发出比天高. In other words, you got really angry. 烧尽功德林, it burned up my forest of merit and virtue. Okay, key idea. The idea is that when we're cultivating, right, when we're practicing the spiritual path, we are accumulating gongda, merit and virtue. What that means is that we're uncovering our own nature, that we have this wisdom nature that we cultivate. It's like a garden, a beautiful garden, and the flowers come up and the fruits come up. But what happens when you get angry is you burn it off. It's fire. That anger is just like... And as Shifu told the verse, he said, Bai Tian Cai, let's see, how does it, I can translate it. It's the kindling, the wood of merit and virtue gathered over 100 days burns down with a single spark of anger. Bai Tian Shou Gong De Cai Yi Huo Bian Shao. So that's not right in Chinese, but all of the hard work that you cultivate over 100 days of wood gathering goes up in a single spark. Gone, right? Now, we go up to Oregon every year, and it's when you go by on Highway 101 and you look at the highway, at the forest on the left and right, it looks pretty good. When you turn off Highway 1 and go in the back roads, you see where the forest has been clear-cut. The timber companies don't do it up to the highway because it's bad PR for them. Because clear-cut forests are pretty terrifying. They're just, all of the living stuff has been shaved down. One year, we went up and a forest fire had been through what had been clear-cut. And, oh my God, I'd never seen the aftermath of a forest fire. Everything not only didn't grow, it was charred. It was ashes. And you just looked and you thought, there's nothing green here. There's no water. There's not a blade of grass. There's not an animal. There's not a bird. Now, in reality, forests actually, you don't have to quote me, but forests benefit from occasional forest fires. Not when they're clear-cut. This was a clear-cut forest fire. And it was really clear that maybe grass would grow back, but the forest might grow back in 100 years, maybe not, you know. When I saw that, I understood Shifu's verse. Shao Jin Gong Do Lin. It burned away your forest of merit and virtue. And that's the inside of your mind after a really good anger fit. If you let it go, if you indulge your anger and blast somebody, you're burning off your merit. And where's your wisdom? Kind of back to zero. You start over. And you can cultivate it again, but it grows slowly. You know, 我尽受苦报. And so here's my bitter reward. When you get really, really angry, the result is you don't see straight for a while. Something that before you'd be able to make the right decision, now you're kind of at a loss because your mirror is all smudged and distorted. The mirror that you look in to get the right answer, you know, meaning your mind. So that's kind of how to, you know, repressing doesn't do it. You go to the heart of it, you go to the cause of it, and then you wait it out. You tell yourself, I'm not going to get angry this time. I'll find another way. I'll be patient instead. Okay? Does that make sense? Sounds pretty tough. Today we had a really good Dharma talk at lunch by Mr. Ha, our 90-year-old Dharma friend. And he quoted, we heard from him and also from Mrs. Han, our 90-year-old Chinese teacher. And we had a lot of 90-year-old wisdom today. It was pretty good. Mrs. Han quoted Maitreya Bodhisattva's verse. And Maitreya is the Bodhisattva with the big belly, you know, the laughing Buddha, the fat Buddha, you know, the happy Buddha, they call him. He's not. He's not a Buddha yet. He's a Bodhisattva. So why is he fat? It's not because of high fructose corn syrup, you know. It's not because he eats like 3 Big Macs for lunch. It's because he is able to hold all of that emotion without erupting. The verse that we heard at noon was 度大能容一切天下难容之事，开口便笑，笑一切世间可笑之人. His stomach is big because he can hold all the things in the world that are hard to endure. He can hold on to them without blasting. So he has this capacity. The word is capacity to hold. 开口便笑. He opens his mouth and smiles and laughs. He laughs at all the people in the world who are really worth laughing at because they're ridiculous. Right? He laughs at all the people who are laughable because they're chasing the dream. They're lost in the cultural trance. So that's Maitreya. So he can not get angry. So when I get angry, just before I get angry, if I'm doing good, if I'm watching my mind, I think of Maitreya. And I think, if he can do it, I can do it. Hang on, don't get angry, because the result is a forest fire. Remember Oregon forest, burned down, clear cut, nothing grows. You go, I don't want to be there. It was I want to get out of there so bad, because just as far as you can see, over the hill, over the mountain, there's just some like shaved black. You know, you think this is not what this is not what the Buddha gave us. Why do people do this? Boy, the more I looked at that clear-cut burned forest, the angrier I got. It didn't really help because it made me thought, who would do this? Who would be so selfish? They would think this is the right thing to do. Cut it down so it never grows again. I mean, it will over 120, 200 years, but it's not. Meanwhile, you know, humans are these 2-legged, bald bipeds. Pathetic. That forest is full of teeming with trillions of lives, you know. One human. All right, cut it down, Joe. That's that. When you see it from a plane, you go, what happened? The earth is sick. Oh, well, that's just Weyerhaeuser, yeah. Well, who told him to do that? Well, I think he lives in Texas. Absentee landlord. He's on a yacht somewhere near Bimini, you know. You want to just slap him and say, wait, did your mother teach you? Does your mother know you did that? Somebody spank this person and send him to his room. Grow up. Jesus, humans are a blight. Remember in The Matrix, where Agent Smith says to Morpheus, you know what I'm referring to? One of my favorite quotes. Agent Smith says, I have observed that there is an organism similar to humans. Do you know what it is? A virus. Killing everything in its path. You know. So, let's move on to our next. Don't get me started on anger, all right? So, where were we? 20 minutes ago. Yeah. Okay, next line. 菩萨勤修不懈怠，积德实心戒具足，专求佛道无厌倦，知其受智，度众生。菩萨勤修不懈怠，积德实心戒具足，专求佛道无厌倦，知其受智，度众生。The Bodhisattva cultivates diligently. He is never lax or lazy. She promptly attains 10 mind sets and perfects them all. Intently seeking Buddhahood, she never tires or wearies, determined to ascend to rescue living beings. All right, look at the Chinese here. Pusa, Bodhisattva. Qinxiu, vigorously cultivates. Bu xie dai, never gets lax, never slows down. Ji, de, and right then, at that point, de, shi, xin, gets 10 mind sets. That's the choice we made for xin. Jie, juzu, all of them are perfect. Chuan, specifically, uniquely, only, 求 seeks 佛道, the Buddha's path, 无厌倦, never tires of it, never gets tired. 志气, will is set, the intention to expect 受志, to get the call, 度众生, to rescue, to save living beings. 受志, that's a very interesting idea, to receive the kind of the deputization, to be deputized, to get the call, we say, to receive the, what's the word? The mission, to really completely expects, his will is expecting to be asked, to be appointed to go rescue living beings, determined to ascend. Yeah. So the Bodhisattva cultivates hard, never gets lax, because why? Number 4 is vigor. This is the virya paramita, the jingjin boromi, the vigor paramita, the perfection of vigor. 记得实心觉具足. And right on the spot, 10 of those resolves. And we spent a lot of time, I was in Australia during that time that we went through those with the help of the novices, the nuns who came. 专求佛道, seeking the Buddha's path, 无厌倦, never fatigued or wearied, never gets tired of it, and determined to get the call to rescue living beings. Okay, you want to look at that third line, 佛道. That word Dao here is very interesting. It's the Chinese, there's a whole kind of study of what happened when Buddhism came to China. A lot of people have written books, studied it. What happened? The Chinese already had Taoism, and they had Confucianism, and they had indigenous Chinese religion. So when they started translating these words, they didn't have to start from scratch. They already had a set of vocabulary. Was it the same thing? Notice they used the word Dao for what probably came across as Marga, M-A-R-G-A. Marga means path. It's a road, right? This is McKinley Marga, among other translations from Marga. So the Buddha's path, the Buddha's Tao. I spent a whole week of my class at Bond interpreting the word Tao. That's one of my topics. Introducing the Buddhadharma to these undergraduates at Bond University this year. And it was fun because Tao is a big, rich word/idea. And it's not entirely Chinese, but the Chinese developed it in a way that most other cultures kind of hint at but don't have the whole thing. When you compare the Tao with God, you get some real interesting overlaps and no connections. It works in some ways, it doesn't work in other ways. What is the Tao? Does it create? It does. But it's not a being. The Tao is like a function. And yet, if it's so, the Chinese take it to be essential to the human understanding of what's going on in us, around us. If it's so basic, how come Plato didn't talk about it? How come Aristotle didn't talk about it? How come Copernicus didn't talk about the Tao? Why didn't Einstein talk about the Tao? You know, if it's so basic. It's a wonderful, powerful, evocative, rich concept that first time I heard it, I was 14 years old. I knew I was going to look at this the rest of my life. This is an idea worth spreading. You know, TED online, the TED conference, TED, ideas worth spreading. The Tao is an idea worth spreading. And the Shifu, Master Shenhua, spent a lot of time sharing the Tao with us. Not hidden in Buddhist ideas, but out front, not Taoist either. They're not, he didn't say this is a Taoist idea. The Taoists don't own the Tao. The Taoist body of learning, of knowledge, was people who wanted to talk about the Tao. They didn't give it the Buddha's spin, but it's the same Tao they're talking about. And it's a central core concept. So here is Buddha Tao. It's a road. It's a path. And you walk it. To make it work, you have to walk it. You have to actually set foot on it and do it. But as soon as you do, there it is. Furthermore, one of the lines from the Tao Te Ching, or one of the ones that Shifu used to quote all the time was, "Buka shuyu er liye." You can't leave it behind for even an instant. That's one of the things about the Tao. We are never out of the Tao. You can't leave it behind for an instant. And yet, as the Tao Te Ching says, ordinary people, ignorant people, when you talk about the Tao, laugh at it and run the other way. Okay? Because ordinary people, it's just like, what are you talking about? Some mysterious, invisible power that sets heaven and earth apart? Nah, I don't think so. Middling people, so that's the ordinary common person. People with some intelligence hear it and have doubts. They don't laugh at it, but they doubt it. Right? It's like, nah, I'm not so sure. Prove it. They don't deny it, but they don't get it either. People with the highest faculties, people with wisdom, as soon as they hear about it, immediately put it into practice. And when you start paying attention to the Tao, and then you look through that lens at the things that Shifu did, Master Shenhua, suddenly you get an amazing focus. And some of the things that our teacher did that otherwise would be kind of inexplicable, unexplainable, once you see it through the Tao, it's like, I get it. I know why Shifu did that. Sudden reversals, saying one thing and then completely contradicting himself and teaching and doing this over here. Why? The Tao goes like this. The way wanders. The Tao sometimes stops still. Sometimes it goes back. The Tao follows conditions. They call it the watercourse way. How does a stream go downhill? You ever see a stream start at the top and go downhill? It goes like this. Now it's hidden. Now it's a waterfall. Streams do that. The Tao accords, right? So it's a wonderful concept, and it's more than a concept. It's a wonderful principle. And when people, as I was trying to explain it to my students at Bonn, say it's if I have to define it in a sentence, it's the way things really are between heaven and earth before words and thoughts. Before you can think about things, before you can talk about things, there is a way things are. But our words and our thoughts get in the way and make us believe that it's not what's going on. Right? If you don't believe it, just look at Congress. When you have otherwise perfectly sane and reasonable people who have to obstruct the president on principle because they can't agree because it's him, no matter what they're charged, that their responsibility, their duty is to serve people, and yet they will turn their back on that in order to thwart the president because of who he is. You go, that's wrong, That's not the way things are before thinking and words. That's a perfect example. The idea that we can pay for weapons that destroy our bodies, but we will not pay for things that keep grandma healthy without costing an arm and a leg. One of our members of our community went to the hospital for 4 days to take care of a smashed bone. The bill for the hospital stay was $90,000. I heard about that today. 4 nights in the hospital just to get a broken bone taken care of. 90, 90,000 period 00 dollars. 90,000, 4 nights. You go, that's wrong. When in Taiwan, the very same procedure in Taiwan, $5. Why? Single payer. In Taiwan, they go, yeah, we need to take care of our bodies. Who doesn't have one? Oh, you're sick? Oh, let me help you out here. $5 minus 90,000. And guess what? He's uninsured. Oh. What will happen? Ooh. We don't know yet. But his fate is in the hands of bean counters. Okay, that's the way things aren't. That's, what's natural? Natural is, oh my God, you're hurting. Let's see if we can help you. Why? Because we can. We know how. I'm not hurt, you're hurting, let's help you. Because why? You're us. And that will come from me later. That's the way things are. We look at this little tiny planet, spinning through space. The Hubble Deep Space Probe, right? They turned the Hubble telescope into a corner of the sky where there was nothing they could see, and they gave it 11 days of passes around, right? And it was a total experiment because it was a dark space corner, They said, let's see. But it was kind of astronomers having fun, kind of a bet, Let's see if there's anything out there. So they took an angle of the sky that was about that big and focused the Hubble on it. Every time it went around as it circles, orbits, every time it came back, they shot it. And they did it for 11 days until they mapped it. They discovered 100 billion galaxies out there. Each galaxy as big as our entire galaxy, everything we can see, 100 billion of them in this corner of space where to this time they said there's nothing there. And further, they saw from that vision, they gained knowledge of how fast the universe is expanding. The light that we see in that infinite tiny corner of the galaxy, of the universe that has 100 billion galaxies in it that they could see, the light that comes like a photon, here's Hubble. Let's say this is Hubble's, when you go click with your camera, there's a little sensor, there's an electronic charged, sensor like a chip. Okay, let's say this is Hubble's chip. One photon came, hit. They took a picture of it. That photon that hit started from the thing we saw, what was it? 100 million light years before we were born. It took that long for that single beam of light to come and hit. That's how old that corner, So there we go. And here's our planet, this rotating around our sun. Where there's Sun, Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. Pluto's not a planet. That's us, okay? And yet, we can't get our way around helping a man whose leg broke. We'll charge him $90,000 to fix his leg. But over there, $5, okay? And that's the way it is. We are funny. That's called fire of ignorance. That's not the Tao. And that's deluded, right there. There's delusion right there. You go, something's wrong with that. So what do? You try to use the Tao as your standard. Where do you go for the Tao? Well, you can go to wise voices, wisdom there, without ignorance. You can go to your heart, but sometimes our heart is not trustworthy, if we're deluded. So you have to go to the mind in samadhi. That's pretty good. You go to principle. You go to dharma. What should we do? Well, how about the golden rule for a start? Don't do to other people what you don't want to have happen to you. Do unto others that you want to come back. I like that. That rings. There's the Tao at work. Golden rule. Every culture, every age goes, yeah, golden rule makes sense. Why? Because we're connected. Okay, good. There's a good one. Just stick with that one for a while. Kindness. The universe seems to like kindness because things grow. Life continues. That's a good thing. 上天有好生之德, right? Heaven and nature has this gift for life. So there you go. There's the Tao at work. And so when I hear 佛道, the Buddha's path is two things. Wisdom and blessings. Complete. So wisdom sees through to the emptiness of things, and blessings wants to help. Blessings wants to make it happy. Those are two things. They show yan. So the two kinds of adornments are wisdom and blessings. The Buddha is complete in wisdom and complete in blessings. That's the Buddha's path. And it's hard to get to that place, right? Hard to get to that perfection of them. We see it every now and then it's gone. We see it and it's gone. But that's the path. And as you walk it, it opens. So Shifu would always say, if you are a Buddha if you have a single thought of Buddha, then that's the path. If in thought after thought you're a Buddha, then that's the fruition of the path. There's the path and its fruit. Okay, we're getting a little away from the sutra, but yeah, Connie. Your voice is entirely too quiet. You have to actually speak out if you want me to hear you. Can't hear you, sorry. It's going away again. Is it the same thing as compassion? Nope, different. Go ahead. You can ask it again. Everybody can hear you. Was that a question? Did I get it right? When I'm talking about blessings, no, I'm not. Okay, that's a good question. Why? There are two lists of the two things that the Buddha is. And it's hard I only gave you one of them. The Buddha is complete in wisdom and blessings. He's called Liang Zu Zun, the doubly perfected, honored one. He's perfect in wisdom. That is to say, he can see through things with emptiness, to where nothing is together forever. Right? He's also perfect in blessings, meaning his benefiting of beings is also, although he sees the emptiness, he still doesn't stand still when he sees dogs being thrown into traffic. That's one. The second, though, is the Buddha also has wisdom and compassion. That's a separate pair of two, right? The Buddha has great wisdom, and when you flip that over, it's great compassion. It sounds like blessings, and it functions like blessings, but blessings is action, compassion is seeing. Guanyin Bodhisattva, Guan Shi Yin, observes the sounds and feels compassion, but the blessings happens when you get into action and you go out and help.
I always thought blessing was like the result of what you...
It is. Right. Compassion is the reason why you go out and do blessings. you plant blessing. Compassion sees the connection. Blessings goes and ends the suffering by making happy. Okay? Good question. Somebody's paying attention. See? Okay. Can we do one more? You gotta. Otherwise, turn it over there. 26, 27. 恭敬尊德修行法，知恩一回无云报，舍慢离禅心调柔，专更精勤不退转。He reveres honored, virtuous ones and cultivates their dharmas. He knows kindness, is easily instructed, and without annoyance. He abandons pride, does not flatter, is tamed and compliant in mind. He increases in vigor and reaches no further retreat. So when somebody has cultivated to this point, their character changes. They get really soft. Let's look at the text here. This is like a list of qualities. What is this? What's a bodhisattva who cultivates like? 恭敬尊德. He or she is very respectful to people who have cultivated. They pay attention to people who have virtue. 修行法, and cultivates the methods, not desires, not instinct. They cultivate fa, methods, dharmas, ways to cultivate. 知恩, she recognizes kindness that has been done for them. 意会, they are easy to teach. They're not stubborn. 无云bao, they are not violent and deluded. They're not murky, right? So this is a result of the cultivation that they have done. 舍慢, they get rid of pride. 离禅, they don't flatter. They don't toady up to people. 心调柔, their minds are soft. 转更精进不退转, they are really work really hard, and they don't go back any longer. They reach the state of no retreat, abhayvartika. Okay, look at this. This is so interesting. Once somebody points out to you a real cultivator, you can't be patient with phonies anymore. Or let's say it differently. Once you see a real cultivator, you can spot pretension. You can see the phonies. And what are the phonies like? The phonies put on a style. Phony cultivators are hard. They have edges, they have surface, they have things that catch your eye, they flash, they give you discrepancies. They're not consistent. Yeah, I'm losing my battery. The battery is not consistent. You know? No, I got battery. I heard my voice go in and out. Okay, no problem. I got battery. So, my battery is consistent. It is not a phony. Be true. So what's a real cultivator like? We went to see, Master Hua took us to see Shou Ye Lao Huashan. I talked about him 2 weeks ago. He was considered a major Avatamsaka practitioner. He's the one who wrote out the Avatamsaka Sutra twice in his own blood. Right? Now, I'm not recommending that practice. Kids, don't try it at home. You understand? Nobody here is going to say, well, you told us that was a real cultivator. All right. Master Shoye was uneducated, quote, right? Tough guy, tough. And he left home and had heard, I won't tell you his whole story because I did the last time, but he was kind of rough cut, diamond in the rough. He resolved that he was going to write out the entire Avatamsaka Sutra in his blood, never having seen anybody do it. He just started out, and he was unable to write characters. His Malbitsu were not skillful, but he would just copy, and the first ones are like not zheng, and he ran out of blood 2/3 of the way through. He would cut his tongue, and catch the blood, and then write, and until, guess what? Blood in the dish coagulates, it gets thick, it dries, There was no refrigerator, He was out on the mountain, Wu Taishan, and he, and his day after day after day, he ran out of blood. He wasn't finished. He had more sutra to copy, and the doctor said, you keep that up, you're going to die, because you're anemic now. And he was like thin and pale, and he was determined, though. And after about 6 months, the characters got really beautiful, square and precise, and he said, this is the best thing I've ever done. If I die, I'd rather die doing this than living and doing anything else. He said, I'm going to continue. I don't care, he said. And his complexion turned red, and the blood was abundant, and he finished. And all the doctors go, how did that happen? And so what did he do? He said, I'm going to do it again. So I think at that time he cut his finger, and he'd and he learned how to thin the blood just enough, and he character a little smaller this time, not quite as big. And he wrote the whole thing out, and there it was in the Buddha hall of his temple in Chinatown, New York. 2 huge stacks of Avatamsaka Sutras in slightly reddish characters, Like I say, don't try it at home. Talk to me before you cut your tongue to write. Okay, so Shifu took us down there to visit him in Chinatown. Did you see his Phil? Did you ever see that temple? Okay, pretty amazing. And so Master Shoye, what did he look like? He looked like the uncle who would come to the reunion and sit in the corner and smile a lot. You kind of knew he was there, but you kind of didn't pay attention to him. But if you looked at him, you realized his eyes were seeing everything. His eyes were very, very bright. There was nothing he missed. And yet, if you didn't pay attention to him, somebody would say, was Uncle Harry there? Yeah, I think he was. Yeah, he was there, yeah. Everybody see Uncle? Yeah, Harry was there. But you didn't notice. Why? He didn't stand out. He was round. Everything about him. But if you noticed what he did, never made a false move, never wasted a thing, never made a mistake. Everything just enough, just right, right on time. That was Master Shoye. And then, when there's a moment when he has to act, fills the room. There was we went to lunch in the basement of his temple, and there was a monk who was a blowhard. There was a show-off monk, who was like out to, kind of like a gunfighter, come in to match, the 2 old masters, Shifu and Master Shoye. And this guy was like really loud and really arrogant. And when he made a really offhand comment, and the opportunity arose to teach him, and I remember Shifu took a steak knife or a knife from the table. And he said, "Cut it off!" And smashed the knife down on the table. And this guy was like, "Ah!" He was totally scared. And Master Shou just moved. I remember seeing him move, and it was so fluid. It was kind of like slow motion, and but it was perfect. And this guy was on his way out the door before he even knew that he'd been lifted out of his chair and sent up the stairs. And he's kind of like, "How did I get here?" And it was this Master Shou who responded perfectly on time to get this guy out of the way, And it was, I'm sitting here, this brand new monk, kind of like watching these two old masters move. And it was like, okay, Uncle Harry's got some moves, You totally unassuming. And yet when the time comes, every gesture was just right, just enough, right on time. That's the Tao. And it doesn't show, It doesn't show off. So that's what he's like. He reveres honor virtuous ones. He cultivates their dharmas. He knows kindness. He's easy to teach. Because why? He wants to learn to help living beings. He's never annoyed. He's got no pride. He's very soft, very round. He looks like he's been worked on. He looks beaten up. He won't flatter you. He's very tame. He's very soft in his mind. And yet he is always cultivating and never retreats. That's the Bodhisattva on the fourth ground. And he's vigorous. So when you meet somebody who tells you they have psychic powers and that they, are going to help you out, it's going to cost you a little bit, but it's worth it, it's like they're charging for their they want you to know that they're a bodhisattva, you go, I think I'm going to go home and meditate. Thanks, Zhenren bu lou xiang fei zhenren. The true ones don't show you. If they show you, they're not true. So, there we go. We have one more lecture on the fourth. Let's see. I'm saying that. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Yeah, we have a little more. We'll either next Saturday or the following Saturday. We'll finish fourth ground and start on fifth. Okay, time to transfer merit. Let's do that with a heart that reaches the Dharma realm. So transference is, I'll be explaining the 10 transferences chapter tomorrow night up at CTTB. And my understanding of transference has just had a whole new twist put on it because of my journey to the Bahamas, where I realized that's the one. I realized the Bodhisattva makes worlds out of his vows. We're talking about the creation of the worlds, and the Bodhisattva goes, 愿以此功德庄严佛净土. May I take this merit and virtue and create the Buddha's Pure Land. Adorn doesn't mean adorn, it means make. And by seeing it that way, I realize I can't explain that. I could have said to the participants in that conference, you want to know the Buddhist theory of creativity? Use your mind and make a world with the merit and virtue. And if somebody said, how? I would have said, vow power. What does that mean? Try it. Good, that's my best answer. You can do it. I don't know. That's what it means. We've been saying adorn for Zhuangyan. It doesn't mean paint. Adorn to me meant put a wreath on it, put a bow on it, make it pretty. It's not. It means to make. I transfer merit and virtue to make a Pure Land. We're going to Buddha Root Farm to talk about Medicine Buddha, right? Whose vows create this incredible world. So how interesting. I say my whole understanding of transference is now taken on another dimension, which is the Bodhisattva makes worlds with his vows, with her vows. I'm going to make a Pure Land, so at the end of life you can go there. There's no suffering. What are you doing with your weekend? I'm making a world. Yeah, go for it. Want my mom to go there, so she won't suffer either. Anyway, how wonderful. So let's transfer the merit. You transfer it the way you want to. May every living being, our minds as one and radiant with light, share the fruits of peace with hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see how hands and hearts can find in giving unity, may their minds awake to great compassion, wisdom, and to joy. May kindness find reward. May all who sorrow leave their grief and pain. May this boundless light break the darkness of their endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. Meditate, of course. Be careful with the cane. Okay. There we go. And the hands. Okay. Thank you. You're welcome. And well, it's been a long time since I've seen everybody, You went to Australia, forgot about us. I didn't forget about it. Yes, she did. You didn't write. What's your email address? You got a point. Leprechaun at gmail dot whatever. Okay, good. Yeah, well, If you have to depend on email to get the news, you're not much of a leprechaun. You better be careful. Is that a threat? Nah, you should know better. Okay, all right, I understand. Now, what do you have to say to us? Well, tomorrow morning, 6 a.m., anybody who wants to go walk in the woods can go join that Italian monk. I'll be there. You will. Of course, you won't see me. Leprechaun, right? That's right. And I'll be careful, taking care of him, and what you need to do, you want to go walk for a couple hours in the morning in the hills of Berkeley. It's quite nice. Might be foggy. But take a yoga mat or a zafu. We got India and Japan right there. Yeah. Yoga mat or zafu, Japanese yoga. Japanese yoga? Yeah. Whatever you need. Just take a mat, something to sit on. You can take a sweatshirt or a tent fly or a tarpaulin, whatever you need. Take some water in a bottle and dark glasses, sunscreen, mosquito repellent. Not the kind that kills, Just be compassionate to the little winged ones. They're our brothers, hungry, Of course, if you eat vegetarian, they don't bite you because you don't taste very good, But so anyway, take all that stuff. Leave your frisbees at home. Leave your baseball mitts and bats and your cell phones. Leave them behind. Go meditate, walk in the woods with the Italian monk. And if you speak Italian, he'll put you in the front of the line. Of course, he's going to tell you don't talk at all, Better to walk in silence. But he's just like that, so that's all right, And have a good time in the woods, and you'll be back by 10:30. You better be, because the other monk's going to be here waiting for lunch, And if you get back late, you make two people eat late, so make sure you come back in time. And have fun, and leave the cell phones at home. Yeah. Can you imagine walking in the woods in Tilden Park? Ring, ring. How embarrassing that would be. Yeah. So, anyway, we'll be there watching you invisibly, the wee folk and the, the goblins and the spirits and the ghosts and the tree spirits and the fairies. We'll all be watching. And if you get lost, we'll help you back home. So don't be afraid. Wives, bring your husbands. Husbands, bring your wives. Children, bring your parents, Leave your elders at home. They can't walk that far, but no wheelchairs allowed on the path. But have a good time, and anything I forgot?
Bring your own lunch.
What was that?
Please remember, bring your own lunch.
Bring your own lunch. And bring an extra for me, all right? Yeah, just leave some for the little folk. Don't forget us, or else we might play a trick on you. Not that we play tricks on people, but you never know. And if you're quick, you might find a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Come on, you're taking us out of our... Is that called seeking the Dharma outside your mind? What do you think? A pot of gold is actually a pot of gold? It's not worth very much these days. I was talking about wisdom. Wisdom, the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Can I find that in a pot? Of course, where are you going to find it? Well, I don't know. I find it in a sutra. Well, that's pretty good. The pot is your belly when you're meditating. You find the gold inside it. Oh my goodness. That's a whole analogy, of course. Very creative. Look at that. There's a pot of wisdom right there, a pot of gold. That's my chi belly for meditating. Okay. Enough. All right. Did you ever write a sutra out in your own blood? I did, and it was green. Yeah. Okay. Don't tell lies now. So, thank you very much, Riley. And don't forget your shillelagh here. There we go. Okay. The only leprechaun who sits in full lotus. Okay. Great. So, that's tomorrow. We forgot a part. If you can drive, we could use you to carpool. Do you have enough drivers? Do you know? Yeah. And don't leave anything in your car at the trailhead. Empty the car before you go. So. Yeah, it's chilly in the morning up there. Sounds good to me. Yeah, don't come with leather or no. What do you call it? Yeah, walking shoes is good. So, this is a walking, a walking, meditating, stretching morning Dharma assembly. Now, do you want lunches? Are people going to eat up there or not? So, no lunch. Eat when you get back. Lightens the load. Yeah. Could we see the hands of the people who are planning to go? Okay. Great. Otherwise, 10,000 Buddhas bowing is done. And the schedule, CTDB, will be back to normal. Now, yeah, great. Correct. Dashing Pasha will be teaching the round table Wednesday night, and then the round table, and also the Friday night meditation. Right, Thursday. So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, he'll be our teacher. I have an event on Thursday that'll take me away from the round table, but it's coming up, and the round table is really rewarding. That's been really good. If you have somebody here from who's considering getting involved in Buddhist stuff, bring them to the round table. It's a very painless way to get involved. Applying the non-harming philosophy towards your diet is something that ties into both what you put into your body and what kind of energy you put out in the world as well. According to Buddhism, eating meat destroys communities, encourages animal cruelty, puts chemicals into your body, and causes pollution. After we watched The Matrix in class and learned about all the horrible things they do to animals raised to be consumed, as well as learning about the antibiotics they pump into the animals, I had a change of heart concerning my dietary choices. The reason so many Buddhists are vegetarian is due to the no-killing precept. They practice kindness even when it comes to food, and they put plants into their bodies rather than chemicals. Eating can become a way to touch the world and an opportunity to learn kindness by gratitude, which creates an opportunity for generosity. Participating in the world's consumption of meat products is just as bad as being the one who abuses and kills the animals themselves. When you eat meat, you're a consumer of the industry that represents killing and mistreatment of animals. When we sit down to a piece of steak or chicken, we don't really think of all the things the cow went through to be your dinner that night. Some might argue that they're going to die anyway. What does it matter if they're mistreated? Buddhists disagree, and so do I. In America, we think that eating a dog is inhumane. But what's really the difference between eating a cow that was someone's pet than eating a dog that was someone's pet? In fact, in other parts of the world, people do eat dogs, just like we would eat a steak or chicken. Buddhists identify this kinship that we have with animals, especially our pets like dogs and cats. One of my favorite examples from class was the story about the man named John Unger who took his dog into Lake Michigan every morning because it eased the pain from the dog's arthritis. He said it was the least he could do since the company of his furry companion stopped him from killing himself years earlier after a rough divorce. We see dogs as best friends. We should see all animals not as food and not as commodities, not a lesser species. This is the Buddhist argument. How we eat and live with animals reflects our philosophy of life. The question is, do you want to live in a harmless way? Living harmlessly is something that is strong in Buddhist philosophy. Kinship with animals. Eating in a way that touches the world. No harm in all aspects of your life. To eat and live harmlessly is the Buddhist way. Kindness and kinship towards all living beings, not letting your stomach be a graveyard for animals. There are other ways to get protein than meat. Michael Pollan's quote sums it up for me. Eat food, not too much, mostly plants. Isn't that good? This is a first varsity volleyball player for a college in Maryland who, before she took the class, didn't think this way. One more. This young woman was the quietest member of the class. This is the final exams of my Bond University class from last semester. This young woman, I would say she was the least mature of all the girls. Very proper, very nice young woman, but kind of, timid. She had been protected, I think, all her life, and coming to Australia to, for a junior year abroad was a big step. Some of the other girls got into it right away. They're like, I'm here for adventure, and bring it on, and this young woman was like really timid, and she found herself in this Buddhist philosophy class. It's like, and I was so pleased to get this paper that she wrote because she grew, and she was able to write this paper. It was a big accomplishment. I took a lot of pride in the changes that she made. Before enrolling in Buddhist philosophy at Bond Uni, I had never considered any other religion than my own, Roman Catholic. I grew up attending Catholic school, and I've had the teachings of the Bible ingrained in me since I was in kindergarten. At this stage of life, I find it hard to relate to any religion in particular. I'm starting to think that religion cannot be taught. It just needs to be recognized throughout the course of our lives. Although I still consider myself a Roman Catholic, I've found that the Buddhist teachings are very beneficial and make a lot more sense to me than my own religion does. My favorite part of Buddhist philosophy class was learning the 10 evil and 10 good deeds. I enjoyed the fact that rather than a list of can'ts and don'ts like the 10 Commandments, the Buddhist teachings provide a positive spin on them. It's almost like they have supplied a list of why they recommend you do these things. I like that everything that is taught through Buddhist philosophy has a reason. No beings are restricted in the Buddhist religion, whereas lately many people are shunned from the Catholic Church, homosexuals, etc. I've always found it hard to believe in a religion that teaches us to fear our God. Isn't a God supposed to accept us regardless of who we are or what we've done? Exactly. That's why I love Buddhism. The teachings of the Buddha so far have taught me how to become a better person. The religion is based on the values of acceptance. Not only the acceptance of other people, but the acceptance of the past and whatever negative experiences we may or may not have had. I've learned that I'm in charge of my own life and my ambitions. The Catholic Church often tries to restrict our goals because we may have sinned or something like that. The Buddhist philosophy has taught me to better myself. I've learned the importance of focusing on good deeds, and while the Catholic Church has often taught me the negative repercussions that will occur if I do something wrong, I'm glad I took this class because I've grown up knowing there was a different, more positive way of approaching religion. However, I was never exposed to it. Buddhism has opened my eyes to this approach, and I am so thankful that it did. There you go. All right. Not to slam the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church has a lot of good stuff, a lot of value. What was that? I hope the Pope was not online. Can you check? Any of those URLs that have Vatican at the end of it? So, yeah. And when we put it out online, it's there for keeps. You can't pull it back. Some people would say, you're crazy to not edit your webcast. Delete. Hit delete. Too late. Oh, it's out there. So we have to use wisdom and kindness. So I think we're done for the night. Any comments or questions? What did I leave out in terms of announcements? What is it, Gohang? Oh, yeah. Yeah. Next Sunday will be the 18th observance of our teachers entering Nirvana. And up at CTTB, there will be the circular meal offering, where all the food gets passed from hand to hand to hand to hand to hand. And it's originally we were planning to have an afternoon event similar to the 150th anniversary last year, but we went through all these planning meetings and then discovered that it's the first day of summer camp. And all the kids will be arriving at the same time that we were going to plan our, celebration and all. And further, there are not a whole body of volunteers that we had last year to clean up and all. So we had a special request that we not do the events we had planned for the afternoon. So there will be less of a program than we had in years past. The Nirvana Day has become our biggest event of the year in terms of numbers. We'll have 1,500 people up there. So we're going to have a lower profile for our event because there's as it happens, a lot of things are beginning on that day. So that's go for the morning, have a great meal, enjoy the peacocks, the blooming flowers, and beat the traffic getting home. So, right? Oh, okay. 师道之进，非道之退，在善而从，不善而改. If it's the Tao, remember our Tao, if it's the path, walk across it, follow it. If it's not the Tao, stop and retreat, follow the watercourse. Select what's good in what you've heard and cultivate it. Anything that's ungood, change it inside. So we'll see you next week.